Mail order bride arrived in rags. On Christmas night, she's delivered as payment for a debt. But the ruthless mafia boss sees something in her haunted eyes no one else can. A single choice will ignite a war and unravel a betrayal decades in the making. If you're new here, subscribe and comment your location. Now let's begin. The snow fell hard on Christmas night, painting the city white. But in the penthouse at the top of the Aurora Tower, there was no Christmas cheer. Don Daniel Morty stood by the window, a glass of whiskey in his hand, not tasting it. He was waiting for a package, a bride, a business transaction. His consigliere, Mark, had arranged it to settle a debt from a small-time Ukrainian gangster named Igor. Daniel didn't want a wife. He needed a prop. A beautiful, quiet woman to stand beside him at parties and make his business look more legitimate. She should be here, Mark said, checking his watch. The plane landed 3 hours ago. Igor's men were supposed to deliver her. If she's late, the deal is off. The debt remains, Daniel said, his voice cold. He expected a woman like the others, polished, ambitious, greedy in a pretty package. He was prepared to dislike her on sight. A knock at the heavy oak door made them both turn. Not the elevator bell from the private foyer, but a weak, shaky knock on the main door to the penthouse. That was wrong. All deliveries, all guests, came through the secured entrance. Mark looked at Daniel, who gave a single nod. Mark walked over, his hand resting on the gun under his jacket. He opened the door. And there she was. Daniel's first thought was that a stray dog had wandered up 50 floors. She was huddled in the doorway, shaking violently. She wasn't wearing a coat, just a thin, brown dress that was more holes than fabric. It was soaked through from the snow. Her feet were wrapped in rags and plastic bags, tied with string. Her hair, the color of dark wheat, was plastered to her pale face. Her lips were blue. But it was her eyes that stopped Daniel's breath, wide, green, and terrified. They were hollow with a fear that was bone-deep, a familiar fear. It was the look he saw in the mirror the night he put a bullet in old man Kovac's head 20 years ago. The look of someone who had seen the worst of the world and was still somehow alive. She clutched something tight in one fist against her chest. A small, tarnished silver locket. I am Irina, she whispered, her accent thick. I am sent for Don Morty. Mark stepped back, disgust on his face. Igor is playing games. This is an insult. Daniel didn't move. He just stared at her. This was no polished gold digger. This was a sacrifice. A lamb thrown to the wolf to pay a debt. A fierce, hot anger boiled in his stomach, not at her. At the man who would send a woman like this in this state on Christmas night. Let her in, Daniel said, his voice low. Daniel, look at her. She's probably sick. Let her in, Mark, now. Mark moved aside. Irina took a small, stumbling step forward, then another. She left wet, dirty footprints on the pristine white marble floor. She looked around the vast, luxurious room with its high ceilings and expensive art, and her eyes filled with more shame than wonder. She was a stain on his perfect world. Who did this to you? Daniel asked, walking toward her slowly, like she was a wild animal that might bolt. She flinched as he got closer. My uncle's men. They met me at the airport. They took the suitcase, the nice clothes. They said a man like the Don does not need a pretty dress. He only needs to know he owns the debt. They put me in this and pushed me from the car a few blocks away. They told me to walk. Her teeth chattered so hard she could barely speak. Daniel's jaw tightened. Igor's message was clear. Here is your property, worthless, broken. We have no respect for you or her. Mark, run a hot bath. Call Alina, have her bring clothes, something warm, and food, soup, bread. Daniel's orders were quick and quiet. Mark looked like he wanted to argue, but he just nodded and walked away, pulling out his phone. Daniel turned back to Irina. She was swaying on her feet. You are safe here, he said, and the words felt strange in his mouth. He never promised safety. He traded in danger. She didn't believe him. He could see it. But she was too tired, too cold to fight. Her fingers tightened around the locket. What is in your hand? He asked gently. Her eyes flew open with panic. Nothing, it is nothing, just mine. He didn't press. The bath is this way. You will get warm. Elena, Daniel's longtime housekeeper, arrived and clucked her tongue like a worried mother. She led the shivering Irina away. Daniel stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the puddle of melted snow and dirt. "This is a problem, Daniel," Mark said, coming back into the room. "Igor has overstepped. We crush him for this. We take his territory, we—" "No," Daniel cut him off. "Not yet. First, we find out who she really is." "What do you mean? She's Igor's niece. A piece of trash he used to wipe a debt." "Did you see her eyes, Mark?" Daniel turned, his own eyes dark. "That is not the look of a simple girl from a small-time gang. That is the look of a survivor. Of someone who has been in the deep water and is still drowning. Run a background, use our contacts in Kyiv. I want to know everything, not just what Igor told us." It took 2 days. 2 days where Irina stayed in the guest room, sleeping for almost 24 hours straight. Elena brought her food, simple clothes, and kindness. Irina spoke little, jumping at every sound. She watched everything. The men who came and went, the quiet conversations, the way Daniel commanded a room without raising his voice. She was studying him as much as he was studying her. On the second evening, Mark came into Daniel's study, a file in his hand. His face was pale. "Daniel, you need to see this." Daniel took the file. Inside were photographs. A younger Irina, maybe 16, in a nice dress, standing between a handsome, smiling man and a beautiful woman. They were in front of a grand house, not in Kyiv, but in Odessa. Another photo showed the same man at a dockyard, men in suits around him, a man of clear power. "Her name is Irina Volkov," Mark said, his voice tense. Daniel's head snapped up. "Volkov." "Yes, daughter of Anatoly Volkov." The room went silent. Anatoly Volkov, the butcher of Odessa. The man who had orchestrated the hit on Daniel's father, Stefano Morty, 15 years ago. The man who had started a war that nearly destroyed the Morty family. The man Daniel had sworn to kill, but who had died of a heart attack 5 years back, escaping Daniel's vengeance. "Igor is not her uncle," Mark continued. "He was a low-level enforcer in the Volkov organization. After Anatoly died, the organization splintered. His lieutenants fought for control. Igor must have grabbed her. She's been hiding or a prisoner for years. The debt Igor owed us, it was a lie, a trick." Daniel looked down at the photo of the smiling family, the father who had murdered his own, the daughter now sleeping under his roof. "Why send her to me? It's a suicide move. I could have thrown her off the balcony the moment I saw her." "That's the point," Mark said quietly. "Think about it. Sending the daughter of your greatest enemy to you in rags as a payment. It's the deepest possible insult. It says, I have the last piece of your enemy and I treat her like garbage, and now so can you. It mocks your revenge. It mocks her. Igor, or whoever he's working for, is laughing at you, Daniel. They want you to react, to kill her in rage and start a new war." Daniel closed the file. His heart was pounding. He looked toward the door as if he could see through the walls to where Irina was resting. The haunted eyes. The locket she protected so fiercely. She wasn't just a pawn. She was a message wrapped in a tragedy. He stood up. "Where is she?" "In the library, I think. Elena said she likes to look at the books, though she doesn't read English well." Daniel walked out of the study and down the hall to the double doors of the library. He pushed one open gently. Irina was there. She was wearing a simple gray sweater and pants Elena had found. She was standing by a tall shelf, her fingers lightly tracing the spine of a big, leather-bound book. The city lights twinkled through the window behind her. She looked clean, rested, but still fragile, a bird in a gilded cage. She heard him and turned quickly, her body going tense. "Irina," he said, "we need to talk." She nodded, wrapping her arms around herself. He walked in and closed the door. He didn't sit behind the big desk. He leaned against a reading table, trying to look less threatening. "Your uncle, Igor. Tell me about him." She looked at the floor. "He is my mother's brother. After my parents died, he took me in. He said he would protect me." "Did he?" Daniel's voice was soft. A single tear traced down her cheek. "For a little while. Then things changed. He said I was a burden, a reminder of a past that was dangerous. He kept me in a small room. Then he said he found a way for me to be safe, a powerful man in America, a marriage. I thought it was a chance." She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "Then they took the clothes at the airport, and I understood. I was not a bride, I was a receipt, proof the debt was paid." Daniel took a deep breath. "Irina, your father, was he Anatoly Volkov?" She froze, every bit of color drained from her face. She stumbled back a step, hitting the bookshelf. The fear in her eyes wasn't just fear now. It was pure, undiluted terror, the kind that knows death has finally found it. How do you know that name?" she whispered. "Because Anatoly Volkov killed my father." She slid down the bookshelf to the floor as if her legs could no longer hold her. She hugged her knees to her chest, making herself small. "So, now you kill me. It is why I was sent, to finish it, to make you dirty your hands with his blood." She closed her eyes, waiting. Daniel walked over and crouched down in front of her. He didn't touch her. "Look at me." She opened her eyes. They were full of tears, but also a defiant spark. She was her father's daughter in that moment, not broken, just cornered. "Igor, or the men he works for, sent you to me as a joke. A sick, twisted Christmas present. They wanted me to see the daughter of my enemy in rags and either kill you or, worse, they wanted to insult us both." He reached out slowly and touched her chin, making her look right at him. "But I see you, Irina Volkov. I see the survivor. I see the woman who walked through the snow in rags rather than die. I see a weapon they tried to throw away." She stared at him, confused. "What are you saying?" "I am saying I choose you." The words hung in the quiet room. "Not as a receipt, not as a pawn, but as an ally. Your father and I, that was his war, not yours. But the men who did this to you, who used you like this, they are my enemies now, for what they did to you on Christmas night." A sob escaped her lips. Why would you do this? I am nothing to you." He thought about the look in her eyes that first night, the mirror of his own pain. "Because you are not nothing. They thought your worth was in your name or in your shame. They were wrong. Your worth is in your strength, and I need strength by my side right now." He stood up and held out his hand. After a long moment, she uncurled her fingers from around the locket and placed her cold hand in his. He pulled her gently to her feet. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice stronger. "First, you tell me what is in the locket." She hesitated, then lifted the chain from around her neck. With fumbling fingers, she opened the tiny clasp. Inside wasn't a picture. It was a small, folded piece of very thin paper. She handed it to him. Daniel carefully unfolded it. It was a series of numbers, letters, and symbols. A code. It looked like a bank account or a safe deposit box. "My mother gave it to me the night they came for my father," Irina said. "She said it was my inheritance, the only thing they could not steal. She said to never show it to anyone unless I found someone I could trust with my life." She looked up at him. "I do not know what it is." Daniel stared at the code. This changed everything. This wasn't just a woman. This was a key. A key her father's enemies had been looking for. A key they had sent to him, not knowing she had it. "We will find out what this is," he said, his mind racing. "But now you are in more danger than ever. The people who sent you here, when they realize I haven't harmed you, when they realize you might have this, they will come. For both of us." Just then Mark burst into the library without knocking. "Daniel, we have a problem. Igor is dead, found in a dumpster an hour ago, throat cut, and we're getting chatter on the wires. The Volkov remnants, they've unified under a new boss, someone called the Reaper. And he's asking about her." Mark pointed at Irina. "He says the Don has something that belongs to him." Daniel stepped in front of Irina, putting himself between her and the door. The peaceful interlude was over. The war had just begun. "Lock down the building," Daniel said, his voice turning to ice. "Call James, David, and Paul. Tell them to get their men here. We are at war." He looked back at Irina, who was standing straight now, the fear hardening into something else. Resolve. "You wanted to be safe. Safety is a weapon, and today we start learning how to use yours." Irina closed her fist around the locket again, feeling the metal bite into her palm. She looked from Daniel's strong back to Mark's grim face. For the first time in years, she wasn't just a victim to be pushed around. She was a reason. A target, yes, but also a player. She nodded slowly. "What is the first move?" she asked, her voice clear. Daniel almost smiled. There she was, Anatoly Volkov's daughter. "The first move is we find out what this code opens. Because if it's what I think it is, we're not just fighting for our lives, we're fighting for a kingdom." Daniel took the folded paper from Irina's hand with a new kind of care. This wasn't just paper. It was a spark that could start a firestorm. "Mark," Daniel said, not taking his eyes off the code. "Get Leo on the secure line, now." Leo was the family's tech expert. He lived in a basement full of computers, a man who could find anything digital. Mark nodded and pulled out his phone, stepping away to make the call. Daniel led Irina out of the library and back to his study. It was a room of dark wood and thick carpets. He went to a large painting on the wall, a picture of an old Italian street. He swung it open like a door. Behind it was a safe. He worked the dial quickly, opened it, and took out a sleek laptop. "Leo will need to see this," Daniel explained as he booted it up. "But we don't send a picture. We read it to him, no digital trace." Irina watched him. She saw the calm, focused way he moved. This was a man used to danger. She was still scared, but a new feeling was growing under the fear. Curiosity, purpose. Mark came back in. "Leo is ready. He's on a secured voice line." He placed a small, weird-looking phone on the desk. It was encrypted. Daniel put the phone on speaker. "Leo, I have a series of characters. I need you to tell me what they might open. No searches, just your brain." "Okay, boss, shoot," came a young, clear voice from the speaker. Daniel held the paper close. "Primary sequence, VKOSD 77Z4419. Secondary, Delta Sierra 888 Alpha, tertiary marker, Black Sea Star." There was silence on the line for a full 10 seconds. Then Leo let out a low whistle. "Okay, wow, that's not a bank account. That's a vault identifier." "What kind of vault?" Daniel asked, his voice tense. "VK prefix is custom, probably Volkov. OSD usually stands for Offshore Storage Terminal. The numbers are a specific bay and container code. The Black Sea Star, that's the name of a ship, or was, a decommissioned luxury yacht turned into a private floating vault. It's anchored in international waters off Cyprus. It's a legend in certain circles. A bank for things that can't go in a regular bank, physical things, gold-bearer bonds, art, jewels, incriminating ledgers." Daniel looked at Irina. Her eyes were huge. Her mother had given her the keys to a floating treasure chest. "Can it be accessed?" Daniel asked. "With that full code? Yes, it's a dual-key system. One key is that code, known to the owner. The other is a physical key held by the ship's security captain. You need both to open the specific container. Without the physical key, you'd need an army to blast in. With both, you walk right in." "Who has the physical key?" Irina asked, speaking for the first time to Leo. "Whoever your father trusted most. Or," Leo said, his voice dropping, "whoever killed the person he trusted most and took it." The study door opened. Alina came in, her face worried. "Sir, there is a delivery for Miss Irina. It was left at the service entrance." Daniel stood up quickly. "What is it?" "A box wrapped in Christmas paper." Alina looked sick. "Don't touch it," Daniel ordered. He looked at Mark and James, another guard who had appeared at the door. "You too, with me. Irina, you stay here with Alina. Lock the door." "I'm coming," Irina said, her voice firm. "It is for me. I have seen bad things before." Daniel saw the set of her jaw. She was done hiding. After a moment, he nodded. "Stay behind me." They went down the service elevator to a concrete loading bay. A small, gift-wrapped box sat alone on the floor. It looked pathetic. Cheerful red paper with green trees. James, a big man with careful hands, knelt down. He listened, then shook his head. "No ticking." He carefully peeled back the paper, revealing a plain cardboard box. He used a knife to slit the tape and open the flaps. Inside, on a bed of shredded newsprint, was a dead canary. Its yellow feathers were dull. Around its neck was a tiny piece of black ribbon. And beside it, a Polaroid photograph. James lifted the photo out. He went very still, then handed it to Daniel. The photo showed a woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and Irina's same dark blonde hair. She was sitting on a simple bed in a room with bare walls. She looked tired but unhurt. A newspaper was held in front of her. Today's date. Irina made a choking sound. She reached for the photo. "Mama," she whispered. "She is alive." Daniel felt a cold fury. Ego had lied. Her mother wasn't dead. She was a prisoner. This changed everything. "Look at the back," James said quietly. Daniel turned the photo over. A message was scrawled in ugly black letters. "A little bird told us you found a new cage. Trade the song for the mother. You have until New Year's Eve. Come alone to the old fish market at midnight, or the next delivery will be a different kind of box." It was signed with a simple, crude drawing, a skeletal hand holding a scythe. The Reaper. Irina's hands were shaking, but she didn't cry. She held the photo of her mother to her chest. "They have had her for 5 years," she said, her voice hollow. "All this time." Daniel put a hand on her shoulder. "This is how they control you. They thought you were just a scared girl. They didn't know you had the code. Now they are guessing. They want to trade your mother for the numbers." "What do we do?" she asked, looking up at him. Her green eyes were pools of pain, but the fear was gone, burned away by anger. "We don't trade," Daniel said flatly. "We never trade with scum like this. It never ends. We get her back and we take what's yours." "How?" Daniel looked at the dead canary. A warning, a threat. "We give them a show. They want you to come alone, scared, and trade. We'll give them a different show. We go to the meeting, but not alone, and not to trade." He turned to Mark. "We need to find that ship, the Black Sea Star. Leo, you still there?" "Yes, boss." The voice came from the phone Mark was holding. "Find everything on that ship. Crew manifests, security details, patrol schedules. I want to know if you can hack its systems, cut its power, anything." "On it." Daniel looked back at Irina. "Your mother is strong. She has lasted 5 years. She can last a few more days. We have until New Year's Eve. That's our deadline. First, we secure your inheritance. We get the physical key. Then, with that power behind us, we go get your mother, not to beg, but to take." For the first time, a flicker of real hope lit in Irina's eyes. "How do we find the physical key?" Daniel smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator on the hunt. "We ask the only person who might know where it ended up. We ask a ghost." Irina frowned. "A ghost?" "My father's old consigliere, Salvata," Daniel said. "Everyone thought he died in the war with your father. He didn't. He went deep into hiding. I know where he is. He knew everything about my father's business, and about your father's business. If anyone knows who your father's most trusted man was, it's Sal." They went back upstairs. The mood in the penthouse had changed. It was no longer a waiting room. It was a war room. Daniel made calls. Men like David and Paul arrived, their faces grim and ready. They spread maps on the large dining table. They talked in low, serious voices. Irina watched from the edge. She saw how Daniel led. He listened, then decided. No arguing. She saw the respect in the men's eyes. This was not a man who ruled only through fear. He ruled through strength and brains. Elena brought her a cup of sweet tea. "Here, child, you need your strength." "Thank you, Elena," Irina said. She took the tea and sipped it. It was hot and comforting. "Daniel, he is a good man." Elena followed her gaze to where Daniel was pointing at a map. "In this world, good is a complicated word," Elena said softly. "He is fair, he is loyal, and he protects what is his. Now that includes you. That is better than good. That is rare." Later that night, Daniel found Irina on the balcony. She was wrapped in a thick blanket, staring at the city lights. The snow had started again. "You should sleep," he said, coming to stand beside her. "I cannot, my mind is too loud," she admitted. She looked at him. "This Salvata, you trust him?" "With my life," Daniel said without hesitation. He was like a second father. When the war started, my father told him to disappear, to save himself, to be a record keeper of the truth. We have met only 3 times in 15 years. It is too dangerous for him otherwise." "Where is he?" A small town in Vermont. He runs a bakery. Daniel almost laughed at the thought. The best cannoli outside of Sicily, he tells me. We go there, Irina asked. I go. You stay here where it's safe. No, Irina turned to face him fully. He knew my father. He might have information about my mother, too. I need to see his face when he talks. I need to go. Daniel studied her. The wind blew her hair across her face. She didn't brush it away. She just stared back, unblinking. She was not asking permission. All right, he said finally. We go together, but we go fast and we go quiet. Just you, me, and Mark. We leave at dawn. The next morning, they drove in a plain, black SUV. Mark was at the wheel. Daniel sat in the back with Irina. They didn't speak much. The city gave way to snowy fields and forests. After 4 hours, they entered a sleepy little town with a white church and a main street with small shops. Antonio's bakery had a cheerful red awning. Daniel told Mark to park around the back. Watch the street. If you see anything, call. Daniel and Irina got out. A bell jingled as they entered the bakery. The smell of warm bread and sugar filled the air. An old man with a full head of white hair and a flour-dusted apron was behind the counter. Can I help you? He asked with a friendly smile. Then his eyes landed on Daniel. The smile froze, then melted into a look of deep, sad warmth. Danny, he breathed. He glanced quickly at the front window, then gestured with his head. In the back, quickly. They went through a swinging door into a hot kitchen. Racks of bread were cooling. The old man, Salvata, didn't hug Daniel. He just put a floury hand on his cheek. You look like your father, more every day. His sharp eyes moved to Irina. They lost their warmth. They became the eyes of an old soldier, seeing a threat. Who is this, Danny? Sal, this is Irina. Irina Volkov. Salvata took a step back as if struck. His hand went to the heavy rolling pin on the table. What is this? A joke? A trap? It's no trap, Sal, Daniel said, his voice calm but firm. She was sent to me as a payment for a debt, in rags, on Christmas night. They didn't know who she was. They didn't know she has this. Daniel took out the paper with the code. Salvata didn't look at the paper. He kept his eyes on Irina. Anatoly's daughter, I saw you once. You were a little girl at the docks in Odessa. You had a blue ribbon in your hair. Irina's breath caught. You were there. I was there trying to make peace between two stubborn old goats, Sal said, his voice gruff. He finally looked at the code. He read it and his shoulders slumped. So, the Black Sea Star, he did it. The crazy bastard actually did it. You know about it? Daniel asked. Everyone who was anyone knew the rumors. Anatoly was paranoid. He didn't trust banks. He bought that old yacht and turned it into a fortress. He bragged to your father about it once when they were still friends, drinking too much vodka. He said, Stefano, my friend, my legacy will be untouchable. It will float on the water, waiting for my blood. Sal looked at Irina with new understanding. He meant you. Who has the other key, Sal? Daniel pressed. Who was his most trusted man? Salvata was silent for a long time. He wiped his hands on his apron. His name was Victa. Victa the Silent, not because he was quiet, because after he spoke everyone else was. He was Anatoly's shadow, his blade. When Anatoly died, Victa disappeared. The word was the new bosses, the ones who splintered the organization, they tried to find him, to get the key. They never did. Do you know where he is? Irina asked, her heart pounding. Salvata looked at her, his old eyes sad. I know where he might be if he is alive. There is a monastery in the mountains near the border of Georgia, very remote, very old. Victa's mother was a devout woman from that region. He told me once if the world ever went to hell, that is where he would go to make his peace, to atone. A monastery, Daniel said, skeptical. Even killers have souls, Danny, or they want to find them before the end. Sal said softly. He went to an old metal recipe box, rummaged through cards, and pulled out a small, folded map. It was hand-drawn. Here, this is how you find the place. If he is there, he will be hard to reach, and he will not want to be found. Daniel took the map. Thank you, Sal. Salvador came closer, lowering his voice. Danny, listen to me. The men who have her mother who sent her to you, this Reaper. It is a new name, but I have heard whispers. He is not just a thug, he is smart. He is uniting the Volkov remnants by promising them one thing, the treasure on the Black Sea Star. He doesn't have the code. He has the mother. He is using her to get to the daughter, to get to the code. You are walking into the middle of a hunt that has been going on for years. He turned to Irina. Child, your father was a monster in many ways, but he loved your mother, and he loved you. That code, it was his way of protecting you from the world he created. Be careful who you trust with it. His eyes flicked to Daniel and then back to her. It was a warning and a blessing. They left the bakery with boxes of cannoli, like normal customers. Back in the car, Daniel spread the hand-drawn map. A monastery in the Caucasus Mountains. That's a long way. And not friendly territory for us, Mark said, looking over from the driver's seat. We're not going, Daniel said, folding the map. Not yet. We have a more immediate problem. The meeting at the fish market on New Year's Eve. We need to prepare for that first. We need to find out everything about the Reaper. His men, his patterns. He looked at Irina. And we need to get a message to your mother. She needs to know you are alive, that you are coming, that she must be ready. How? Irina asked. Daniel pulled out the Polaroid of her mother. We send a message back in the same way. We send a box. 2 days later, a package was delivered to a rundown auto shop in Brighton Beach, a known front for the Volkov remnants. The package was wrapped in the same cheerful Christmas paper. Inside was a single, fresh yellow rose. And a new Polaroid. This one showed Irina. She was not in rags. She was wearing a dark sweater, standing straight. She was not smiling, but she looked strong, clean, and healthy. In the background was a blurred view of Daniel's penthouse window, the city glittering behind her. On the back, a message in clean, typed letters. The bird is out of the cage. She sings a new song, keep the mother safe, we will come for her, and we will bring hell with us. It was not signed. The message was clear. Irina was not a scared little bird anymore. She was under protection, and the rescue was not a negotiation, it was a promise of war. Daniel's men watched the auto shop. They saw the panic. They saw men running in and out. The Reaper had not expected this. That night, Leo called with new information. Boss, I found the Black Sea Star. It's real, and it's on the move. It left its usual spot off Cyprus. It's sailing east toward the Aegean Sea. Why? Daniel asked. Only one reason to move a vault ship, Leo said. Someone is preparing for a withdrawal or a change of custody. I think the Reaper is moving it. Maybe he's forcing the ship's captain somehow. Maybe he's trying to take the whole thing by force before you can use the code. Daniel's mind raced. They were running out of time. The meeting at the fish market was in 3 days, and now the treasure was moving. We have to move faster, Daniel said to Mark and Irina. We can't wait for New Year's Eve. We need to force the Reaper's hand. We need to make him think we have the physical key. We need to make him come to us. How? Irina asked. Daniel looked at her. We give him a different trade, not the code for your mother. We tell him we have Victor. We tell him we have the physical key. We offer to trade Victor for your mother. But we don't have Victor, Mark said. He doesn't know that. We set a new meeting. Sooner. Somewhere we control. When he comes for the trade, we take them both. We take your mother and we grab one of his top men. We make him tell us how to get on that ship. It was a dangerous, bold plan. A bluff. Irina nodded slowly. We must try, for my mother. Daniel picked up the encrypted phone. Leo, I need you to create a digital ghost. I need a voice recording, a few words in Russian. A man saying, I am Victor, I have the key. Can you do that? With enough sample audio, yes. Do you have a sample of Victor's voice? Daniel looked at Salvator's recipe box, which he had brought. Tucked inside was an old mini-cassette tape. Labeled in Sal's writing, Odessa Dock Meeting 98. Salvator had recorded everything. Yes, Daniel said, we have a sample. 2 days before New Year's Eve, the trap was set. Daniel chose the location, an abandoned printing warehouse in a district full of empty factories. His men, David, Paul, James, and 6 others, were already in position, hidden in the rafters, behind machinery, and on the rooftops outside. They were silent shadows in the cold, dark space. Irina was there too. Daniel had argued against it, but she refused to stay behind. He has my mother. I need to be here. I need her to see me so she knows it is real. She was wearing a dark, tactical vest over her clothes, and her face was pale but determined. She stood slightly behind Daniel, near a stack of old paper rolls. The only light came from a single, hanging bulb in the center of the vast room. Under it stood Mark, holding an old, locked metal box. It looked important. It was just a prop, filled with scrap metal. Daniel's encrypted phone buzzed, Leo in their ear. 2 cars just turned onto the street, black SUVs, 500 meters out. Everyone hold positions, Daniel whispered into his own mic. He looked at Irina. Remember, stay behind the concrete column, no matter what happens. She nodded, her knuckles white where she gripped the column. The large roll-up door at the front of the warehouse creaked open just enough. Figures slipped inside. 6 men, armed, scanning the room. They spread out. Then 2 more entered. One was a hulking man with a scar across his neck. He held a woman firmly by the arm. Irina's breath hitched. It was her mother. She looked older, thinner than in the photo, her hair gray. But her posture was straight. Her eyes darted around the room, sharp and alive. The last man entered. He was not big. He was average height, wearing a long, dark coat. He had a calm, almost bored face. This was the Reaper. He walked to the edge of the circle of light. "Don Morty," the Reaper said. His voice was smooth, with only a slight Russian accent. "You changed the venue. I don't like changes." "I don't like dead birds," Daniel replied, his voice echoing in the space. "Where is Victor?" The Reaper smiled thinly. "Where's the code and the physical key?" Mark held up the metal box. "Victor is secure. The key is here. First, the woman walks to the middle. Then we give you the box. You give us Victor's location." The Reaper laughed. It was a dry, unpleasant sound. "You think I am a fool? I want to see Victor. I want to hear him speak. Now." This was the moment. Daniel gave a slight nod. From a speaker hidden in the shadows, a voice played. It was an old, gruff voice, spliced together by Leo from the tape. "I am Victor. I have the key." It sounded real, especially in the echoing warehouse. The Reaper's men looked uneasy, but the Reaper himself just kept smiling. He didn't even glance toward the sound. "A recording," the Reaper said, sounding amused. "A child's trick. I know where Victor is. He is in a grave in Georgia. I put him there myself 2 years ago when he would not give me the key." A cold dread washed over Daniel. Sal was wrong. Victor was dead. The bluff was blown. The Reaper's eyes shifted past Daniel, landing on Irina, who had leaned out too far. "Ah, there she is. The little bird. You look better in clean clothes, Irina." His mother, Lena, saw her. "Irina!" she cried out, struggling against the scarred man's grip. "Mama!" Irina took a step forward. "Enough games," the Reaper said, his voice losing its smoothness. "You have the code. I have the mother. Give me the paper or I will start cutting pieces off her and mail them to you, starting with her fingers." Daniel stepped fully into the light. "You touch her, and you will never get the code. You will never open that ship." "I don't need you to give it to me," the Reaper said. "I just need her." He pointed at Irina. "The code is in her head or on her skin. We will take her. We will peel the truth from her, layer by layer, take them." His men raised their guns. "Now," Daniel yelled. The warehouse exploded into noise. Daniel's men, hidden above, opened fire. Not to kill everyone, but to create chaos. The single light bulb was shot out, plunging the room into near darkness, lit only by the flashes of gunfire. Daniel grabbed Irina and pulled her behind the concrete column as bullets whizzed past. "Stay down." He fired his own gun, covering Mark, who was dragging the decoy box to safety. The Reaper's men were shouting, scattering for cover. In the confusion, Daniel saw Lena. The scarred man was dragging her back toward the door. She fought him, kicking and biting. "Irina, with me." Daniel moved, not away from the fight but toward it, weaving through the machinery. Irina followed, her heart hammering against her ribs. They came around a giant old printer. The scarred man was there, almost at the door, his back to them. Lena saw them. With a sudden, furious strength, she stomped on the man's foot and threw her weight sideways. He stumbled, his grip loosening. Daniel was on him in 2 strides. He didn't shoot, it was too close to Lena. He slammed the butt of his gun into the side of the man's head. The man grunted and went down. "Mama!" Irina rushed forward and caught her mother as she almost fell. They clung to each other, sobbing. "No time," Daniel shouted over the gunfire. "To the back exit, go." He pushed them toward a small door at the rear of the warehouse. Mark and James covered their retreat, firing at the Reaper's men who were trying to flank them. They burst out into a cold, dark alley. A waiting SUV roared to life, David at the wheel. They piled in Daniel, Irina, Lena, Mark. The doors slammed and David hit the gas, speeding away from the warehouse. Inside the car, it was quiet except for ragged breathing. Irina and her mother held each other tightly in the backseat, crying and speaking in rapid, tearful Russian. Daniel watched the empty street behind them. "Leo, status." 2 hostiles down, the rest are scattering. The Reaper got away. He had a car waiting around the corner. He's gone. Daniel slammed a fist against the dashboard in frustration. They had Lena. That was everything. But the Reaper was still out there. And now he knew they didn't have the key, and he knew they were coming for the ship. They drove to a safe house, an apartment in a quiet neighborhood. Elena was already there, waiting with medical supplies and hot food. As Elena fussed over Lena, checking her for injuries and giving her tea, Daniel pulled Irina aside. "He's going to the ship," Daniel said quietly. "He knows the code is real, and he knows we have it. He can't use it without the physical key, but he can try to take the whole ship by force or move it somewhere we can't find it. We have to get there first." "But the key," Irina said, despair in her voice. "Victor is dead, it is lost." "Maybe not," a voice said softly. They turned. Lena was standing there, wrapped in a blanket. She looked frail, but her eyes were clear and fierce. Victor was clever. He knew they would come for him. He would not keep the key on him. "Mama, what do you know?" Irina asked, going to her. Lena sat down slowly. "The night before they took me, Anatoly was afraid. He told me if anything happened, Victor had a plan. The key was not a key. It was a token, a symbol. Victor would leave it in the only place he knew your father's enemies would never look, a place of peace." Daniel's mind raced. The monastery. Sal said Victor might have gone there to atone. "Yes," Lena said, "but not to hide himself, to hide the key. He would leave it there, for God to watch over, he said." It was a desperate, thin hope, but it was all they had. "We have to go," Daniel said. "Now, before the Reaper realizes the same thing." "I am coming," Irina said. "And I," Lena said, surprising them both. "I know the old ways, I know the region, and I will not let my daughter walk into the wolf's den without me." 3 hours later, they were on a private jet, headed east. Daniel, Irina, Lena, Mark, and 2 of his most trusted men, Paul and David. They were armed and prepared for anything. The journey was long. A flight to Tbilisi, Georgia, then a tense, quiet drive in rugged vehicles up into the snow-covered Caucasus Mountains. The roads became narrow tracks. The air grew thin and cold. Finally, they had to stop the cars. According to Sal's map, the monastery was a 2-hour hike up a steep, hidden path. They walked in single file, the snow crunching under their boots. The world was white and silent. And then they saw it. Stone walls built into the side of the mountain. A simple wooden cross on a roof. The monastery of St. George. An old monk in black robes was chopping wood. He looked up as they approached. He showed no surprise, only a deep, weary sadness. "You are looking for what the other man lost," the monk said in heavily accented English. Daniel's hand went to his gun. "What other man?" "A man with dead eyes. He came yesterday with many angry men. They tore apart the chapel. They threatened the brothers. They found nothing and left in a rage, saying they were too late." The monk looked at Lena and Irina. "You are the Volkov women." "Yes," Lena said, stepping forward. "We seek what Victor left for peace." The monk studied her face for a long time. Then he nodded. "Follow me." He led them not into the chapel, but around the back to a small, frozen graveyard. He stopped before a simple, unmarked stone. "Victor is not here in body, but his heart is. He buried it with her." The monk pointed to the stone. "His mother. He came here 5 years ago. He dug the earth himself. He said he was burying his past. He left something in the box with her ashes. He said one day the daughter with green eyes would come. He said to give it to her and no one else." Irina knelt in the snow before the grave. She crossed herself, a gesture from childhood. "I am sorry to disturb your rest," she whispered. The monk brought a small shovel. Daniel took it. "Let me." He carefully dug at the base of the stone, where the earth was not frozen solid. After a few minutes, the shovel hit something metal. He cleared the dirt with his hands and pulled out a small, rusted metal box. He handed it to Irina. Her fingers were numb, but she managed to pry it open. Inside, on a bed of what looked like old fabric, was not a key. It was a heavy silver signet ring. The crest was a two-headed eagle, the Volkov family seal. On the inside of the band was a line of tiny, precise numbers and letters etched into the metal. A different code. "It is not a key," Irina said, confused. Daniel took the ring and held it to the fading light. "It's better. It's the authenticator. The physical key is probably with the ship's captain. This ring proves you are who you say you are. It is the blood right. This, plus the code, is how you claim your inheritance." They had it. They had the final piece. Back at the jet, Leo had more news. The Black Sea Star has stopped. It's anchored off a small, private island in the Aegean just inside Greek waters. Satellite shows increased activity. Small boats going to and from. I think the Reaper is there. I think he's trying to take the ship by storm. "How long to get there?" Daniel asked the pilot. 4 hours, sir." "Do it." The flight was tense. They made plans. They would go in by boat at night. Daniel's contacts in Greece could provide a fast, quiet craft. They would board the ship, find the captain, and use the ring and the code to secure the vault before the Reaper could break in. It was the most dangerous thing Daniel had ever attempted. An assault on a fortified ship in international waters. As they flew over the dark sea, Irina came and sat next to him. She held her mother's hand on her other side. "Thank you, Daniel," Irina said quietly, "for choosing the girl in rags." He looked at her. The haunted look in her eyes was still there, but it was shared now with something else. Strength, trust. "You were never just a girl in rags," he said. "You were a queen in exile. I just helped you remember." He took her hand, her fingers laced with his. It felt solid, right. The plane began its descent. An hour later, they were on a sleek black speedboat, cutting through the calm, dark water. The Black Sea Star loomed ahead. It was huge, like a dark castle on the water with only a few lights showing. They could see another, larger boat tied up alongside it. The Reaper's boat. "He's already on board," Mark whispered. They cut their engine and drifted the last 100 meters, their boat silent. They used ropes with grappling hooks to catch the railing on the lower, dark side of the ship. One by one, they climbed up. Daniel went first, then helped Irina and Lena. Mark, Paul, and David followed. The deck was empty. They could hear shouts and the sound of metal grinding from somewhere deep inside the ship, the sound of someone trying to cut through a door. "The vault is in the center of the ship, 3 decks down." Leo's voice guided them through their earpieces. They moved like ghosts, down stairwells and through narrow corridors. They passed 2 guards, Reaper's men, who were quickly and quietly subdued by Mark and David. Then, they reached a heavy, vault-like door. It was already scarred from cutting torches. The door was slightly ajar. They could hear voices inside. "A last chance, Captain. Open the secondary door or we burn your daughter's face." Daniel peered inside. It was an antechamber. The Reaper was there with 4 of his men. They had an older, gray-haired man in a ship's officer uniform, the captain on his knees. A young woman, maybe 20, was held by another thug, a knife at her cheek. Beyond them was another, even heavier door, the vault itself. Daniel looked at Irina. He pointed to the ring, then to the door. Your move. Irina took a deep breath. She stepped into the doorway. Looking for this, she said, her voice clear and loud. Everyone in the room spun around. The Reaper's eyes widened with shock, then fury. You, he hissed. Irina held up the signet ring, letting it catch the light. Irina Volkov, daughter of Anatoly, heir to what is in that vault. She looked at the captain. Captain, I have the code and the blood right. My father trusted you. Do you trust me? The captain stared at the ring. He saw her face. He saw Lena behind her. Hope flooded his eyes. The code, he said, his voice rough. Irina recited it perfectly. VKOSD 77Z4419. Delta Sierra 888 Alpha. Black Sea Star. The captain nodded, tears in his eyes. It is her. Kill them, the Reaper screamed. But Daniel and his men were already moving. Guns barked in the small metal room. It was close, brutal, and fast. Mark took a bullet in the arm. Paul tackled a man going for Irina. Daniel fired twice, hitting the man with the knife. The girls scrambled free. The Reaper, seeing his men fall, didn't try to fight. He ran, not out the door but toward a side passage. He's heading for the lifeboats, the captain yelled. Mark with me, Daniel ordered. Irina, get the vault open. Daniel and Mark sprinted after the Reaper. They chased him upstairs and onto the open deck at the stern of the ship. A small motorized lifeboat was already lowering into the water, a single man in it. The Reaper was climbing over the railing, trying to jump down to it. Stop, Daniel yelled. The Reaper turned, a gun in his hand. He fired. Daniel felt the bullet graze his side, a hot sting. He fired back. The Reaper jerked, hit in the shoulder. He lost his grip and fell not into the lifeboat, but into the dark, cold sea between the ship and the boat. The lifeboat sped away, leaving him. Daniel ran to the railing. He saw the Reaper flailing in the water, his dark coat dragging him down. Their eyes met for a second. Then the water closed over his head. He didn't come back up. Down below in the antechamber, it was over. The remaining thugs were disarmed. The captain, his hands shaking, used a key from around his neck and input a sequence on a pad next to the huge vault door. He looked at Irina. Your ring, please. She handed it to him. He pressed the signet into a perfect mold on the wall. It clicked. He turned the ring. With a deep, hydraulic sigh, the massive door of the vault began to open. Irina, Lena, and Daniel, who had just returned, stood in the doorway. The lights inside flickered on. It was not just piles of gold or cash, though there were bars of gold and stacks of money in sealed containers. It was a museum. There were paintings in crates, jewelry in glass cases, file boxes stacked high, and on a small pedestal in the center, a simple framed photograph. A family, Anatoly, Lena, and a young Irina, all smiling. Lena let out a soft cry. Irina walked to the photo and touched it. He was a bad man in many ways, Lena whispered. But he loved us. This was his apology, his hope for your future. Daniel looked around. This was power, real power. Not just the money, but the secrets in those files. Leverage, a kingdom, as he had said. He walked to Irina. It's yours. She looked up at him, tears on her cheeks. Ours, she corrected softly. You chose me when I had nothing. This is ours to protect, to build something new with, something better. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. He looked over her shoulder at Lena, who gave him a small, grateful nod. He looked at the vault not as a prize, but as a tool, a foundation. The war was over. The Reaper was gone. The debt was paid in full. As the first rays of the New Year's sun began to color the sky over the Aegean Sea, painting the water in gold and pink, Daniel Morty stood on the deck of the Black Sea Star. Irina stood beside him, no longer in rags, but in a warm coat, her hand in his. Her mother stood on her other side. They watched the sunrise in silence. A new day, a new year, a new beginning built on a choice made on a cold Christmas night. He had seen her worth, and she had seen his, and together they had chosen each other. Thank you for watching. Was Daniel right to protect his enemy's daughter? Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more stories where love and loyalty collide in the world of the Mafia. Your next obsession awaits.